Hello, my name is Lira. I am the Advocacy Director of La Casa Mandarina, a non-profit organization based in Mexico City. And in this organization, we work to combat, prevent, and eradicate sexual violence, for more specific, child sexual abuse. And we provide advocacy services to survivors of gender and sexual violence, as well as legal guide and psychological therapies for their healing. I am also a women's rights defender, an actress, and an acting teacher for kids. So today I want to share with you a little part of my story and how I got to here. I am a rape survivor. And as a survivor of rape, I not only have to live with PTSD, but I also have to endure being revictimized by the ignorance and lack of awareness of Mexican institutions and public opinion. Today, I continue to speak out and demand justice for myself and other survivors of sexual abuse and violence. Today, I raise my voice to share my experience about my life before and after reporting my rapist. So, I want to start with, at the age of 18, I began studying acting at a private university, and later the director of my career invited me to work with his company, theater company. First as an assistant and then as an actress in different plays. This director was the person who raped me. He approached me first in the academic and working areas, and then manipulated me and insulated me until he committed the different abuses I was victim of. He emotionally, economical, and sexually abused me. So it's important remember that surrounding sexual violence, there are many factors that we don't know. Unfortunately, in Mexico and different countries of the world, we are not given sex education based on a gender perspective that allows us to recognize violence and stop it in time. There aren't classes in schools concerning consent or boundaries. So when I was 18, I didn't know the kind of actions this man 25 years older than me was doing. And I thought it was normal for him to be close to me and know all about my life. But he was grooming me and using all this information against me. So for 4 terrible years, I worked with this perpetrator and his partner, who was complicit in the violence that was exerted not only against me, but also against other workers of the company, all young and with no previous experience in theater or other works. So we experienced emotional and psychological attacks constantly by this abuser, which he justified by a supposed abuse he experienced in his childhood, or by the authority he had on us for being our director and boss in theater. But we need to remember or to recognize that even if he was a survivor of sexual child abuse, that's not an excuse to become a perpetrator. Sexual violence is not an accident. It's a decision that somebody makes to have control and power over other person. In my case, he went all the way to rape, but he carried out many types of violence against me. like psychological and emotional, physical, and sexual violence in all areas in which he related to me. So I slowly came out of that place, um, and that's how I started to realize all the violence I was experiencing. I started studying at another university, getting out of the works I was involved in, and finally cutting off all kind of communication with those people. It's important that you know that during this time I didn't know that I could complain these actions as a crime because my abuser made me believe that it was all my fault, all that was going on. It was until I started taking psychological and holistic therapy that I could talk about what happened to me and begin my path of healing and seeking justice. Um, so I listened that in first time from Mora Fernandez, who is the founder and CEO from La Casa Mandarina. So we need to remember and to know that Mexico is one of the countries with more violence against women. 1 out of 3 women has lived sexual violence in her life, and there are 10.5 feminicides a day in this country. The authorities must take responsibility and take urgent action, and the world's society must fight this silent epidemic. I wrote these words in a terrible moment because sometimes I thought that I had stayed one more day. If I had stayed one more day in that place, I would have ended up dead. I went out and I was not ready to report. I didn't even know that I could report, that I could make a legal complaint. I couldn't even state what had happened to me out of fear, out of ignorance, out of denial. I just wanted to go on, forget everything, and take the deep pain out of my chest. This is an example about how abusers steal your voice, but it's society who teach us to be silent. Perpetrators are the only ones to blame, but where is everybody else's responsibility? Society asks for evidence of a silent crime that occurs surrounded by secrets and without witness. So it's important to support and not shame victims because it's not your fault. It's not their fault. We know, like globally, 1 in 3 children will be sexually abused before the age of 18, and 90% of abusers are a family member, a friend, or someone the child trusts. So statistics reflect the sexual violence situation around the world. Few research done and data coming from sources like police reports, clinical numbers, and non-governmental organizations. That doesn't reflect the heinous reality. So, like I am saying, well, met Mora Fernandez, sorry, the CEO of La Casa Mandarina, and talked to her about what happened to me, about everything that happened to me. She was the first person to show me sorority or sisterhood and to really listen to me and She told me about the types of violence I had experienced, how I could report and make my legal complaint, and not to be alone while doing so. And she contacted me with an psychologist expert on the subject of sexual violence. And at the same time, different social movements began. In Mexico, we started with one called My First Arrestment, in which different women, post on social media the name of her sexual abusers, of her rapist. We were greatly surprised to discover that another women and different actresses and students pointed to my aggressor, who named Felipe Oliva, as their own abuser and sexual aggressor. We contacted some of these women and managed to gather 22 testimonies of women and men who had experienced violence by this perpetrator. We decided to report, and 7 women filed legal complaints with the Mexican government, who unfortunately ignored the lawsuits and only allowed mine to proceed. They say because there is not in time. Different feminist networks and collectives began to support us, and we made the first public scratch in a theater play to socially report this rapist. This had such a strong impact that it reached many media outlets. However, they didn't believe us. They said that we were lying, and it was until we made my legal complaint public, and that I began to give statements that the theater people began to take a stand in our favor. This has been a long road of speak out and healing, not only because of what sexual violence entails, also because I have to face an inept, incompetent, and violent criminal justice system in Mexico. Our laws are very well written, but unfortunately, the authorities are not qualified or hasn't awareness to implement them as they should. So we report the corruption and ineptitude of many of the public officials who revictimizing, who revictimized and obstructed my legal complaint. So finally, I realized that the justice I was seeking was somewhere else. Social complaint help me meet many people who had experienced sexual violence within the artistic guild, and I began to train myself to support and give advocacy services to other survivors. So I expanded my knowledge and sensitivity to listen and support other survivors. And today I work to defend women's human rights, to prevent and eradicate sexual violence throughout my country. I think it's very important that at schools and homes they tell us about what is. Sexual violence is, to learn how to prevent it, set boundaries, and being able to do something. Mexico is one of the countries with more violence against women. 1 out of 3 women has lived sexual violence in her life, and there are 10.5 feminicides a day in this country. I want to repeat because it's really cruel. 1 out of 3 women has lived sexual violence in her life, and there are 10.5 feminicides a day in this country, in Mexico. Well, this is some of my work in Mexico City and how I using the arts for social transformation. In La Casa Mandarina, we made ARTivism, who combines art and activism. So it's important to know that the authorities must take responsibility and take urgent actions. And the world society must fight this silent epidemic. Abusers take away the voice of the victims, and we work to give it back to them. We created the first advocacy program in Mexico City because it's really important to believe in victims, to learn about PTSD, and to build a new, safer world for everyone. A world which we can say to survivors they are not alone, it wasn't their fault, and we believe in you. I put these pictures from my work, from my ARTivism, because I hope this could help to other people to understand that it's really important to take actions around this subject, around sexual violence. I can heal all this pain I feel because of this experience. And now I work every day to eradicate this sexual violence, all types of violence against women. With my characters, with my plays in theater, and with my non-profit organization, with my friends, with everything. So finally, I would like to share this video of the scratch that took place against my rapist. And it's because I hope this could give courage to all people who have experienced sexual violence and are afraid to report or complain. I want you to know that we are much more than the violent experiences we have experienced. But it's everyone's responsibility to raise our voice, to raise our voices, demand our rights, and create a world without sexual violence. First, I want you to see this because I think our voices matters, your voice matters. So to believe in no more silence, it's important to show the effects, the social effects that have in society. So this is a piece of video to march in this year in Mexico City. And then I'm gonna start the video to the scratch. Give me just 1 second, please. Here it is.
Mi estimado defensor de mujeres indefensas, ¿quién demonios te ha invitado a nuestro festín y fiesta? Que si quieres poner las narices, pues ponlas, que es mi mujer y hago con ella mi placer, ¿correcto?
Sí, sí es correcto.
Que si quiero golpear, golpeo, ¿correcto?
Sí, sí es correcto.
Que si quiero darle palos, los doy, ¿correcto?
Sí, sí es correcto.
Que si quiero sobar, sobo, ¿correcto?
Sí, sí es correcto.
Que si quiero verla pobre, la veo, ¿correcto?
¿Correcto?
Irrumpimos en su normalidad. Nos acompañamos en este grito de rabia, en este acto de justicia colectiva. Nos cansamos de callar por tantos años. Gritamos juntas para sanarnos. Porque queremos ser libres en nuestros trabajos, en nuestras casas, en nuestras calles, porque no encontraremos justicia de otra forma, nunca más solas.
Well, so we are not only anymore, and it's important to remember that it's healing. There is healing, and there is hope. So we believe in you. We believe and support victims. And thank you very much for your attention and from this space to talk about this important subject around the world. Thank you.